The opinions and statements expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of WWDB, its staff, or management.
And welcome to another edition of Live on Tape with Pete Tribuco here at WWDB, AM 860 Talk Radio, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group radio station. I am here along with my buddy, my pal over here, Josh. He's doing a good job. We've recorded a few shows today, and Josh has saved my butt a few times so far, so we're really, really happy. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm good, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing good. Nobody ever calls me Peter, you know, because when I get in trouble, my mom used to go, Peter, stop that. Peter, you know. So I go by Pete. Okay. Just a little something about that. So Josh, I know you like soccer, okay? But do you follow tennis at all?
Not as fervently as soccer, but the serve you're telling me our guest has developed, I'm amazed at how fast and powerful it is.
It was amazing. In fact, I actually started playing tennis back in the 70s, and this individual that we're going to be interviewing was one of the best in the world when it came to playing tennis, professional tennis. And I've been playing it. I played in college. You know, I was okay. I was like number 3 singles, number 2 doubles. Never great, but at the same time, I just enjoyed playing the game. And this is a game that you can play in your 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, you can still play this sport, even though, you know, you might be out of college or out of high school. This is a great sport to play, and it's, of course, tennis. And with the person we have on is just an amazing individual. I have followed his career, okay, from day one, 1972, okay, when he turned professional. And I've been following tennis ever since. My wife, by the way, is a big fan of tennis now, but unfortunately, she's only into women's tennis there, Josh. She doesn't want to follow men's tennis for whatever reason, so it's weird, but that's how she is. So what do you say about that?
Well, women play, it seems to me, a more, I guess, slower game at times.
No, don't say that. No. We got to erase that now. No.
Matches I've seen, it just seems that women tend to play a little bit of a slower game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it depends. We had Serena Williams, and obviously she was actually a lot quicker on her serve than most men. But overall, yeah, I guess it would be a little bit of a slower game, but it's still pretty darn fast. If you and I were on the court and someone served or someone did that, we wouldn't be able to even return the serve. We'd be sitting there looking at it like we were, you know, idiots or something. But, yeah, no, women's tennis is great. Men's tennis is great. But we have a gentleman who is amazing, okay? He is a retired American tennis player who turned professional in 1972 and reached the career-high singles rank of number 4 in the world. We have Roscoe Tanner here today. Roscoe, how are you doing today?
Hi, Pete. How are you? I'm doing great. I've just been listening to you guys, and one of the things, I have a daughter who's 17 that plays. She wants to play college tennis, and then she's going to try to turn pro. And so I've been watching the women's game, and I think the women's game perhaps is more interesting than the men's. But also, I watched that match yesterday of Pegula against Swiatek.
Yeah.
And I think that they not necessarily the serve, but on the ground strokes, I think they hit their ground strokes harder than the men.
You could be right. I always go to the U.S. Open. I've gone to Wimbledon, and I've actually, you know, I like to go there early, you know, so you can see everybody. You can go to all the different side courts and everything. And yeah, you're right. And every once in a while, you get someone who has that power serve or power strokes. And you're right. I think, yes.
Yeah, I think they did a study a year or two ago, and the person who had the highest average ground stroke speed, men's and women's, either one, was Madison Keys. She hit the ball on an average harder than any of the men or any of the women. And so they nail them.
And I've actually watched her. I've actually took a shot from one of her. I guess she hit the ball out, and I happened to be in the first row, and I got hit by it. And I'm telling you, I think I still have bruises from Madison Keys. No.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
The women are playing some great tennis. That was an unbelievable match yesterday, and I'm a Jessie Jessica Pegula fan now.
Oh, yes, I am too. In fact, I'm just glad that I didn't get one of your fast serves in the head, although I think I'd be going to the hospital and I have a severe concussion if it didn't go straight through my head, that is, with your serve. I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello? I think we might have lost him.
Hello?
He's still wired into the board from
I
what
can hear you.
see. Can you hear us, buddy?
Hello?
Roscoe, can you hear us? Hello, Roscoe?
Maybe he hit mute accidentally on his phone.
Roscoe, are you there?
Hello?
Are you there, Roscoe?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, somehow I lost you. I'm not sure what happened.
That's okay. We will actually, what we'll do basically is we'll cut it there and we'll splice it together so it's kind of like it never happened, so it will be fine.
I think what happened, I'm sweaty, and I had my phone up to my hair and may got it wet somehow. I don't know, but I pulled it away, dried the phone, and then you're back.
Well, that's okay. Going back to what we're talking about, you had one of the fastest serves ever reported, clocked at 153 miles per hour. Now, I will tell you something. That would be impossible, I guess, for a person to, unless they knew where you were going to serve it. It would be impossible for a person to get around the court to be able to return that serve unless they guessed correctly. Am I right in my assumption?
That's the position I took. And Dennis Ralston at that time was my coach. And it was the first point of the match where I played in the finals against Raul Ramirez of Mexico down in the Indian Wells tournament. And it was the first point, and Dennis had always told me the first few points at least, only serve at about 80%. Don't serve 100% because then you have nothing to add to it later on. So I was trying to serve at 80%, and I think it probably came out at a little over 100%.
Okay.
But the timing was perfect, and it was an ace. He didn't touch it.
Yes, and I'm sure it went all downhill from Raul after that, right?
Well, I ended up in that match. It was the finals, and I won the first 16 points before he won a point. So I was ahead 4-love before he won a point.
Wow, that is amazing. So what's it like? I mean, what is the secret? I mean, I've been, if I get it above 100, I'm happy on a serve. What is the secret to getting it to that speed of 153 or an average, above 150 miles an hour?
Well, I think that it's certainly not muscle, but it's timing. It's getting everything involved, getting a weight transfer, getting a push with your body into it, getting the toss in exactly the right spot so you can swing at the speed you want to, and then having your weight get into it, and that in effect turbocharges the serve.
And a lot of it's wrist action also. Probably you got to really snap that wrist to get that extra speed out.
Well, and the way that I looked at it was I didn't think about my wrist. I would think about accelerating the racket head. Now that your brain makes your wrist do something, but you don't think about it. So I spent most of my time thinking about the racket head and accelerating the racket head through the ball and to the place where I wanted it to go. And actually, the serve that I hit 153 was not flat. It was a slice serve.
No way. Are you serious?
Yeah. No, I'm dead serious. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. How is that possible? How is that possible? The ball is actually curving. It's not going straight, and you hit it at 153. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I found that I could hit a slice serve just about as hard as a flat one, and a slice is more effective because it's curving.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. Well, you were fourth in the world, okay? You played some really good people. I mean, we're going back to the days when everyone was really good. I mean, everyone had a name, and it was a great situation. You did win, I believe, the Australian Open. Okay, in 1977, you were, I guess, on the fourth round at French Open several times. Wimbledon, you were a final, and we'll talk about that against Bjorn Borg, which, man, I don't even know how you could stay on the same court with that guy. He was just so good. And, of course, the U.S. Open, you were in the semifinals in 74 and in 1979, ranked number 4 in 1979. What was that like? I mean, I know things are a little bit different now, the way they play tennis and how they train and all those different things. What was it like when you first started to play tennis? And I think it was 72. Is it similar to the way they train now? The classes and the courses and of course how everything was this different back then?
It was very different. When I first turned pro, I decided to turn pro, and I was going to play the WCT tour that Lamar Hunt put together for the first half of the year. And I got a phone call while I was at home, because everybody played doubles. You played singles and doubles. And I got a phone call at my house, and it was from Arthur Ashe, who was number one in the world at that time. And he asked me if I wanted to play doubles the whole next year. And I'm like, somebody's pulling my leg. And so I didn't believe it. And I was joking around with Arthur on the phone. And when he hung up, I thought, somebody tried to pull my leg. And about 2 weeks later, I got a letter from Lamar Hunt that said, Roscoe, Arthur has just called and you're going to play doubles with him for the whole year. And I'm going, geez, I'm going to play doubles with the number one in the world. And as a result, even though I was a young guy on the tour, my doubles partner was a veteran who'd been around a lot. And so as a result, I practiced every day with Laver, Rosewall, Roach, Newcomb, Stolle, Emerson. So I was practicing with the old guys, and they were helping me and giving me tips on things to do. And then also I was being coached from time to time by Pancho Gonzalez. So I was getting information on how to play and what to do from the best in the history of the game. And so I was very fortunate with that.
Well, obviously you made that fortune reality, because number 4 in the world, you won a Grand Slam. I think overall, you won 16 career titles in singles, 16 of them. Yeah. And your record is impeccable. I mean, you have almost a 67% of a win over loss percentage. So just an amazing experience to do that. And then, of course, Arthur Ashe was number 1 at the time. You ended up doing quite well in the tournaments. And now, tennis rackets. Let's talk tennis rackets, because they were different back then. When I started playing in 72, I had this little wood Jack Kramer racket, okay? And that's how far back we're going. We're going back to Jack Kramer now, okay? And it was it was a small racket, had a very small head to it. The sweet spot must have been maybe a size of a quarter, I don't know. Wasn't very big. And it was hard to hit. I mean, it was really hard to get topspin on those type of rackets or get any power. Yet you were able to do that in a small racket with a very small, sweet spot, and you were able to do that with that racket. Has racket technology increased that much?
Racket technology is huge. I personally think, though, that the strings are not as good as what we played with. We played with gut.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a major difference versus today, because I don't think you get the power and the speed out of today's string. Maybe you get spin, but I just don't think you get the same thing as what we got from gut. But gut's pretty fragile and doesn't last very long, and it's expensive. But the rackets, I go back to try to hit with a wood racket occasionally, and it feels like it bends all over the place, like a banjo hitting the ball.
Yes.
But I started with wood while I was in college, turned pro with wood. Then after a couple years on the tour, I started using a PDP, which was extruded aluminum, the same as the Head Pro, or the Red Head and the Headmaster. And it was actually designed by the same engineers, but they didn't want to sell it to AMF, so they formed a company called PDP.
Okay.
And it was the first racket ever designed with that curve on the shoulders. It's called a French curve.
Okay.
And now all the rackets have the French curve on it. But I loved the PDP. A lot of people say it had an incredibly small head and sweet spot. All of them did versus today. But I loved playing with that racket. And I could serve well, volley well, and all the things I like to do, it did well.
Yeah.
So that was good for me. And I think I won the Australian Open with that racket. I think I may be the only player that won a major title, a slam title, with an extruded aluminum racket. I don't think anybody with the head rackets won. And the other ones I don't think won either. I think I was the only one with that type of racket. Yes,
and basically, again, another accolade. You did it with those rackets. In fact, I remember when I first started, there was a T2000 or the T3000. That was that metal racket that basically every time you hit it, it tinged like crazy.
It was made out of steel.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Connors was practically the only guy. There was a French guy named Georges Gauvin that played with it under the Chemise Lacoste title. But Jimmy played with it with Wilson here. And he was the only guy that could play with it. I tried to play with it when I was 15 or 16, and I could serve great, but I could not get a return anywhere near the court. And so since the returning is half the game, I had to revert to something else.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how he could have used that racket and done so well, because it was not stable. It was not a very stable racket. You had to hit it in a certain area. It had to be in the sweet spot. And on top of that, you can get power because of the strings being pretty tight. But at the same time, man, I actually tried to play with it just for kidding around. I had the old racket and I tried to hit it. And I kept hitting the side of the racket. I couldn't even get it into the sweet spot. And when I did, it would go ting. And
it was weird.
Yeah. So how do you play so well in games like that when you had smaller rackets? They were wood rackets. Okay, the gut was good, but you had to really have great hand-eye coordination to get it right in the sweet spot, so that every time you did it, it didn't hit the side of the racket, or it didn't come off the edge of maybe the strings then it goes all over the place. How did you manage that?
Well, I think the one thing is we didn't know about the bigger headed rackets at that point, so we didn't know there was something better. All we knew is you got to hit it in the center. And the Australians Roscoe used to say he's always wanted to middle the ball, and we get it in the middle. And that's what we worked on over and over. Dennis Ralston said that the thing that I will always work on with me, even when I was ranked number 4, was early preparation, contact point, and balance. Contact point being meeting the ball in exactly the right spot with the center of the racket. So we didn't realize there was anything else but that. And that's the sweet spot may have been smaller, but I think basically it's still in the same spot. Even with the bigger rackets, the sweet spot is pretty much in the same spot. And if you hit it out of that, it doesn't get as good a shot as if you hit right in the middle. Wow.
Josh has got his eyes open and his mouth open. He's my producer here. He's got a question for you.
Okay.
So what would you say would be the best racket to use for a short-term game and a long-term game?
Wow. I think probably, the Yonex has a full range of rackets, and they're pretty amazing. I've played with the E-Zone. My daughter plays with the E-Zone.
Oh, I think we lost him again.
58 or 100. And those are all very good rackets, and I think a lot of it has to do with what strings you use and what tension.
Okay. Well, listen, we got to take a break. We are talking with tennis great, tennis player, fantastic individual, had one of the fastest serves ever in the game, Roscoe Tanner, and we'll be back right after this. Each year, 5,000 people, including children, choke to death. LifeVac can stop these senseless tragedies. It's so easy to use also. Simply place the mask over face, push and pull. You'll never regret having a LifeVac in your home or office. Please visit lifevac.net today to protect you and your loved ones. Or you can call them at 877-LIFEVAC. That's 877-LifeVac.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
And we're back with Live on Tape with Pete Tribuco on WWDB, AM 860, and that is, of course, Beasley Media Radio Station. And we have tennis great, Roscoe Tanner. And for those of you that are old enough to remember, he was number 4 in the world when it came to tennis. And he won Grand Slams and so on. And we're just so glad to have him here. He was talking about rackets, and we kind of lost you there again. So, Roscoe, keep the phone from your hair. I think when you rub your hair, we kind of, the electricity there probably is why.
A little blood on it or something. So, yeah, I'm holding it away from my head.
Yes, I think that's why your tennis ball was going so fast, because it would go close to your hair there, and the electricity coming off there made the speed go up to 153 miles an hour on a first serve. But so now let's go back to the tennis rackets. Now, unfortunately, I've got to mention you did beat Vitas Gerulaitis, okay? Good guy. I loved him. He always went up against McEnroe and Borg and all these great players. And I felt bad for him because, he never really did that well. I mean, he'd always go to the finals, but he would never really win. What do you think of, were you I guess a sparring partner or a playing partner with Vitas at all?
Yeah, I can tell you this, he beat me. So he beat me in the semis of the U.S. Open after I'd beaten Borg in the quarters, and I was up 2-0 and a break, and Vitas fought out of it and came back and beat me. And I beat him some other times. But at any rate, what a great guy he was. I played on the Jimmy Connors tour.
Uh-huh.
I played doubles with Vitas in the last match that he played before he died.
Oh, wow.
We were in Seattle, and we lost, and it was at night, and he wanted to fly back to New York, and he had a bad back.
Yeah.
And we said, why don't you stay here with us, because we got trainers and everything here to work on your back, and flying all night on a red eye in New York can't be that good for your back. And he said, no, I want to go home. And that's when he flew home, got there in the next morning, and what happened was he was tired. A friend of his wanted him to play in some fundraising event out on Long Island. So we went out to the guy's house and went to take a nap in the guy's guest house by the pool. And the guy had his air conditioning fixed the week before, and they hooked up the exhaust
for
the air conditioning backwards, and it shot carbon monoxide in and killed him.
I know. It was so sad. It was so sad. And I liked him. I mean, he was a great guy. But after he beat you, he actually lost in the final, I believe. So, and that's the point I was trying to make, is that he was a great athlete, and unfortunately didn't really have the Grand Slams that he deserved. But he was just and I also heard that his arm, one arm was much bigger than the other arm because of all the tennis that he played. Is that true that the arm that you actually serve with and it is bigger than the other arm just because you're using it?
Definitely. Yes, definitely. Rod Laver, for example, and here he's like 5'8". His left forearm was the same size as Rocky Marciano's.
Wow.
Yeah. So we used to call him a stone crab because his left arm was huge and the other one was like a little thing.
or Popeye. You could be Popeye that's the Sailor Man or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to have to take you to the 5 set, and I'm sorry to bring up bad memories, or good memories.
That's a good memory. Okay. I know where you're going. That's a good memory.
5 sets against one of the best players ever to play the game, Bjorn Borg. And I tell you, you went 5 sets. You lost in the final with him after doing everything that you did. Tell me something about Bjorn Borg, man. That guy was amazing.
Well, a lot of people, they used to call him the Iceman and say that he never got mad, which is not true. That's not true. He got mad, but he didn't let it carry over to the next point. When he was mad, he would get mad, stop, do it, get rid of it, and go to the next point and be ready. When he was little, apparently the story goes that he used to get very mad, and he broke a couple of his rackets, and his parents took him off the court.
Wow.
So when he came back 6 months later, he didn't say a word. But so I could tell when I was playing against him, he didn't like playing me because I wouldn't play his way. I wouldn't stay back and rally. And so he didn't like that. I was coming to net every chance I got, and it kept him off balance. So I had chances against him. I might get killed, but I also had a chance to win. But so playing Bjorn was fun, and it's a nightmare in one sense because he's so good, but in the other sense, when you play him, it's just tennis. You don't have to deal with a whole lot of other stuff. It's just straight up tennis. And if I could do the things that I can do well enough, I had a chance to beat him.
Yeah. So you were more a serve and volley player, and he was more baseline, right?
Right. And he liked long points, and I wanted short ones. And so what Gonzalez fixed up for me was that I had to go to net in the first or second shot in a point.
Yeah.
Right away. If I waited till the 5th shot and hit a perfect approach shot, Bjorn would pass me because he'd settle into the point. But if I did it on the first or second, he might shank the passing shot, and I had chances. So I had to keep him jostled and just keep doing it. And if I got past, so what? Do it again.
Well, yeah, what you're doing is you're forcing that person to make a perfect shot to pass you. If it's a great approach shot and you got the angles on that, basically, it's good. I played the same way when I played in college, basically. I could not be a baseliner and sit back there. I would lose every point because eventually my mind would kick in and I'd be like, don't, you know what I mean? So I'd like to rush the net. And basically, even on a serve and volley, come in as quickly as possible and put the pressure on that individual. But he had a Dene racket that was strung so high. He had heavy topspin, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. But one of the things that we were told anyway is when he first came up as a pro, he had a lot more topspin. And the ball would fall short and bounce up, which gave you an opportunity to hit an approach shot.
Okay.
And Leonard Berglund, his coach, had him reduce the top spin by about 30%, and that's when he started winning the French and Wimbledon.
Well, really? I did not know that. I always thought that was the thing he wanted to do, was get heavy topspin, so that basically if you come to the net, he could maybe topspin above you.
That would work. That would work well once you're at the net. But when you're at the baseline, if he hits that heavy topspin and it falls short, then you got the perfect ball to hit an approach shot on.
Then you're right. That's true. Okay, so we talked about Vitas. We talked about Bjorn. I know you played Jimmy Connors. Okay.
Yep.
What was it like playing him? Flat spin. Everything's flat. Everything was hit flat at you at high speed. How was that?
Well, what you have to know with Jimmy is he's going to fight all the way through. I mean, if you got match point, he's still fighting full speed. He doesn't give up. The thing about it is I've known Jimmy since I was 10. We used to practice together in Chattanooga, and then I went to his house in Belleville, Illinois one time. So I've known Jimmy for a long, long time, and I had a way to play him that he didn't like too much. And one of the things was that when I'd serve into his body. I wasn't going for aces, but I wanted to jam him.
Yeah.
Because if I jammed him, then he's going to get the return back, but he's going to get it back in a way that I can hit a pretty solid volley. And so I had chances against him all the time, and I had a pretty good record against him. In the juniors, I don't think I lost to him at all.
Wow.
When we were 18, I beat him 5 times. But so I liked playing against him. My way tended to work against him. The only time that I was dumb was when I played him in the semifinals the year that Arthur won.
Yeah.
I was playing Jimmy in the semis, and Arthur was playing Roach over in the other semis. And we went out, we were playing double together at that time. We went out to dinner in London, and Arthur is telling me how to play Jimmy when I've been playing Jimmy since I was 10 years old.
That's funny.
And so I'm listening, and I went out and tried to play Jimmy the way that Arthur told me, which was great for Arthur, but not for me.
That's right.
I lost the first 2 sets. I lost the first 2 sets so fast, it was unbelievable. And I got back into the match a little bit, but I think I lost in 4 sets or a long third set. But at any rate, it didn't work. And I kicked myself after the match. I go, why did I do that? And I know juniors in junior tennis, one of the things we tend to do is ask other players, how do you play him? How do you play him? Well, they might be telling you the only way that's good for them, but not for you.
Well,
and
yeah.
The next year, I played Jimmy in the quarterfinals, I believe, and I beat him in 3 sets.
Yeah.
And so on the same place, same court. But I played my way, and he didn't like it when I played my way. So that's one of the moral of that story is don't always listen to the other guy.
I kind of think that you were railroaded by Arthur. I think he wanted you to play him a certain way so he would win. But by the way, just so you know, number 1, Arthur Ashe. I believe in 1974 in Denver, the WCT U.S. final, you beat Arthur Ashe on carpet 6-2 and 6-4. So I hope you got back at him after that.
We traveled. We played doubles together for several years, and we traveled the world. We played all kinds of pranks on each other, and we were friends. And as a matter of fact, in that Denver tournament, I'm pretty sure that Arthur and I won the doubles also.
I'll have to go look that up, but I'm pretty sure you're probably right. That's great.
Yeah, I think we beat Ocker and Reeson in the finals, but I'm not positive.
Well, maybe during the break I'll get a chance to look at that. We are talking with Roscoe Tanner, number 4 in the world back in 1979. One of the best tennis players, had the fastest serve. Great guy. And if I'm ever down in Orlando, Florida, I'm getting a lesson. We'll be back. We'll be back with Life on Tape right after this. Each year, 5,000 people, including children, choke to death. LifeVac can stop these senseless tragedies. It's so easy to use also. Simply place the mask over face, push and pull. You'll never regret having a LifeVac in your home or office. Please visit lifevac.net today to protect you and your loved ones. Or you can call them at 877-LIFEVAC. That's 877-LIFEVAC.
No one should face breast cancer alone. I'm Janelle Hale, founder and CEO of the National Breast Cancer Foundation. When I was diagnosed in 1980, there was no internet and little information available to make an informed decision. Today at NBCF, we help women at every step of their breast cancer journey. Early detection saved my life. It could save yours too. Learn more at nbcf.org/hope.
And welcome back to Live on Tape with Pete Tribuco on WWDB AM 860 Talk Radio, Philadelphia. We are talking with tennis great Roscoe Tanner. And Roscoe, I just looked it up, okay, during the break. And yes, 1974 on carpet, you and Arthur Ashe won 6-3, 7-6 that year. So, in fact, looking at this, you guys won a whole bunch together. You won in 76 at La Costa. You won, I'm sorry, I got the wrong list here. 74, here we go. Let me get the list right. Okay, so you won in New Zealand, you won in Maui, you won in Denver, and you won in Jakarta with Arthur Ashe, and you won in Barcelona with Arthur Ashe. So that's a lot. That's a lot there.
Yeah, we did well together. We had fun, and we weren't necessarily normal doubles players. So a lot of the Australians kept saying, how can you guys win? You don't play right. But Arthur made us very dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I have a question. Arthur Ashe is a righty, right? And you're a lefty. Was that a problem? I mean, that normally would be a problem for people like me, you know?
No, it was great. Arthur had an incredibly strong backhand. And I like to move around at net and all that. But we played, it was funny, people asked me, did I play the deuce court or the ad court? Because normally the lefty kind of plays the ad court, and the person that's more dangerous plays the ad court. Well, Arthur was more dangerous. But what we did was, people asked me which court I played, and I said whichever one Arthur told me to.
Okay. Well, I could imagine if you have a lefty and he's in the deuce court, and you have a righty in the ad court, that middle ball that's coming between both of you, that could be an issue, I think, or at least, whacking rackets together, or who knows who's taking the middle and stuff along those lines. So that's something I'm sorry?
Yeah, we did a good job of communicating on that, who's going to take the middle ball and that sort of thing. And so we didn't have that problem. And most of the time, the middle ball, Arthur wanted me to take it with my forehand versus his. But if we played the other way around when he's in the deuce court, his backhand was like rockets from everywhere, so we let him take whatever he wanted.
Yeah. I also noticed that when you tossed your ball, it was low. It wasn't like, nowadays you see them go up 12, 15 feet with the toss. Yeah. It seems like your toss was lower when you did that.
Well, my toss, I was taught originally by Jerry Everett, Chris Everett's uncle.
Okay.
And one of the things he told me to do was to place the ball in the air like you're placing it on a tee, right to the spot where you'd like to hit it, so your contact point.
Okay.
So that's what I do. And I don't throw it up and let it come back down. I just place it where I want to hit it. And that way it becomes more like T-ball and less like baseball, because the ball's in the same place every time.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it coming down. It reaches apex. You knew where the apex was, and you just hit it. It's funny. That's how I learned to serve as well. I don't throw the ball too high. I try to keep it at where I'm going to hit it. And once it reaches that apex, I hit it there. And you're right. I guess you lose a little angle, I guess, maybe from that, but from the ball coming down.
No, because I think, people think that, but if you're hitting it right at that spot, if you throw it higher, you've got to throw it up and let it come back to that same spot.
Okay.
So you're still hitting it from the same spot. You're really not losing anything. I've had people say, if I throw it higher, I get a better angle. But you're not meeting it higher. You're just waiting for it to come back.
That's right. You're still meeting in the same area. Now, when did you get the nickname Rocket? When did they give you Rocket for your nickname?
That was from Bud Collins. He had a number of nicknames for me. The Rocket was one. And then also he used to call me the Stanford Hillbilly because I was from Lookout Mountain, Tennessee, which is in the lower part of the Appalachian Mountains. And then I went to Stanford or University, and so he used to call me the Stanford Hillbilly. So that was from Bud Collins.
Okay, that's good. And I'm looking here. I'm looking at Davis Cup, 1981. You played with John McEnroe, okay, or at least you played either with him or against him. I'm not sure which one it is, but
we were teammates. We were teammates in singles, and then he played with Peter Fleming in doubles.
That's right. I can see that. And you defeated Argentina in the final over at Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati. What was John McEnroe like? I know he had a temper, but what was he like?
Well, I tell you what, he was one of the best ever. I mean, I played with several number ones on Davis Cup. I played with Stan. I played with Arthur. So I was the number two behind both of those guys. John McEnroe was by far the best Davis Cup teammate to me of anybody. He would spend time trying to help me get ready for my matches and all that kind of thing. And he was very much a good teammate. Not that the other guys were bad. It's just that he was really good. Really?
And did you notice the temper at all when he was playing sports? I mean, in doubles, it's different, right? I mean, was it the same?
He almost got thrown out of a match. We were playing Australia in the semifinals, and he and I had both won our singles on Friday. And he's playing with Peter Fleming against the Australian team. And if they win, then we've won the tie, and it's over. You know, the matches on Sunday don't matter. And they're up 2-0 and the service break. And the Australians, I forget who was serving, Phil Dent or somebody, and he hit a serve a little bit long, and the referee or linesman called it good. And McEnroe came unglued. And, I mean, they're like 6 points away from winning the match and winning the whole team thing and everything. And he comes unglued, and he's getting on the edge of getting forfeited. And I'm sitting there going, no, don't do this. and Arthur got mad at him and wouldn't speak to him. And so it was kind of like Peter and I spent time talking to John, trying to calm him down, because in Davis Cup, you see, the player has no voice.
Okay.
The only person that can complain about a call is your team captain, which would be Arthur or whoever it was for the Australians.
Wow. So basically you just had, and it was hard because I think in John McEnroe's case, when he got excited, he played better after the point, as opposed to normally when you're stuck on a point, your game falls apart. And I think in his case, it was totally different.
Well, and the other side of it too is he's out there trying his absolute hardest, and he's a perfectionist. And so when he sees imperfection, he's going to say something about it. And he had a very unique way of saying it. I mean, it fits to the world, disgrace to society, all these types of things.
Oh, I know.
So it was pretty amazing, and he was taught to let it out. I mean, I was taught differently. I was taught you can't do that. You got to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
And so it's what you learn, you know. And when you're little, and then that's what it was. But he couldn't stand to see some of these guys give less than good performances, some of these linesmen and umpires.
Yeah. Speaking of linesmen and umpires, there's only one Grand Slam that still uses them. Everything else is electronic now. What do you think about that?
I like the electronic thing because you can't complain. How can you complain when the electronic thing's going to give you the answer? So you know if it calls it out, it's going to be out. So I kind of like it, so long as those things are as accurate as they're supposed to be. I don't know if sometimes they're off a little bit or not. I know when we used to have the line thing calling the service line, the Cyclops or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Every so often it would get bumped, and it might be off by 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah, so you don't know basically whether or not. See, I personally like the old game where they had the judges, you know, the line judges and stuff, and then the person holding the top of the net with their fingers. You know,
fingers Fortescue.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there was a certain class to that, you know, and I'm glad that I think it's Wimbledon that still does it. But overall, I don't know if I like it. I mean, I remember it was a big thing, you know, let's look for the Chase Review, you know, brought to you by Chase Manhattan and all that type of stuff. And people could complain about it. And then, we review it. And 9 times out of 10, it was probably correct. But I just liked it. I don't know if I like having these automatic people calling out they're AI. So when the ball's out, they yell, out. And there's no one yelling out. It's an AI person yelling out. So I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, I like it if it's correct. That's good. I know that when there was the old linesmen and things on the line, if they weren't necessarily professional, if they didn't do it all the time, they could be manipulated. And certain players got very good at staring at the linesman at just the right moment to get a call.
Oh, really?
And so that was an art form that some players developed. So that's where I see it from the point of view. I like the fact that it's mechanical and they can't manipulate it. However, there is something to the tradition of the game too, also. So I don't know.
Well, I do recall at the U.S. Open during, of course, the COVID days, 2020, and I remember that they were doing that, and the calls were being made before the ball even hit the. I actually did hear that, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, what is going on here? The call is being made before the ball actually gets and hits the actual court. So I mean, I'm not a strong proponent to that program. So you played the Australian. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, then that's when you know that they need to make some adjustments.
yeah, a recalibration, I would think, definitely along the lines. Okay, so Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, U.S. Open, okay? You played them all. You won at Australia. You were in the semifinals twice at the U.S. Open. Wimbledon in the final, okay? And French Open, fourth round. Now, obviously, you played all courts. Which one was which place was the best place overall for you to actually play tennis in? Australian, French, Wimbledon, or U.S. Open?
Wimbledon.
It's funny you mentioned Wimbledon. I had Katarina Lindquist on my show. Katarina, by the way, I hit with Katarina. She was number 10 in the world back in 1985, and she played Steffi Graf and all these different players that she played, Yvonne Goolagong and Chris Everett and everything. And I tell you, she had the same answer that you just gave me, and it was because of the atmosphere of Wimbledon.
Yeah, it's maintained its history. They've done a lot of developments, and I've been to Wimbledon recently, and all that, a lot of developments and stuff, but it still feels the same. And I think that there are 4 venues in sports where you can not be, the event may not be going on, but if you walk in there, you can feel it. And I think there's 4 of them. 1, the Indianapolis 500.
Okay.
2, the Kentucky Derby. 3, Augusta.
I agree.
The Masters and Wimbledon. I think you can walk around when the event's not on and you still feel it, feel the history of the game.
Really?
And I don't think it's true. I mean, the U.S. Open is very commercial. It's like when I took my daughter and we're watching Wimbledon. On the changeovers, when they're sitting down, it's quiet.
Yeah.
It's dead quiet. You go to the U.S. Open in the stadium, when they're sitting down, it's blaring all kinds of music.
That's right. You're right.
It's a show. And so it's different. Wimbledon is all about tennis. The other things are, I haven't been to the French in quite a long time, so I don't know. The French, interestingly enough, though, the year I got to the 4th round was my best ever. I lost to Borg in the round of 16. He won that tournament without losing a set.
Wow.
Yeah, and he won in the finals like 6-1, 6-2, 6-2. When I lost to him, the closest set he had outside of my match was 6-3, and he had one of those. Mine, it was like 6-3, 6-4, 7-6.
Wow.
So I felt like I'd basically won the tournament.
Yeah, had you beaten him, you would have probably had a great opportunity of actually going to do that. How did you like clay courts? In Roland Garros, it's a clay court as opposed to like a hard court. What was that like? I mean, it slows the game down a little, doesn't it?
It slows it down a ton. But the big thing is you slip as you hit. When I would go to hit a backhand and plant my foot, it would slip a little bit on a clay court. It doesn't on a hard court. You can plant your foot and be solid about it. So that was one of the big differences for me about clay courts. When I grew up, when I was little, I was taught the game on clay courts. So, I knew how to slide. I knew how to do all that stuff. Arthur used to say he felt like he was playing on marbles when he played on a clay court.
Wow.
But so it's a little bit, it's different. But there's a number of serve and volley players that have won the French. Adriano Panada Yannick Noah. There's a few of them that have come through and won it. McEnroe got to the finals. So you can be a net rusher and attacker and win. It's just not during the Borg era.
No, definitely not. Not during Borg.
No.
You know, I equate Borg to being as good from the baseline as Chris Everett was during her time. She was just amazing. Martina Navratilova obviously was a serve and volley player, and like you, would come to the net and basically put the points away pretty quickly. But if that went 3 or 4 or 5 hits both ways, Chris Everett had the advantage because she just had the mindset to be able to stay back until the person came up, and then a perfect passing shot, past that person least expecting it.
Well, and Chris was very good at controlling the point. She basically, in most points, was putting the other person on the run. Even Martina was on the run, but Martina was good enough to counterpunch it. But I think that was Chris's game. I don't think that playing against some of the players of today, if they put her on the run, I don't know if she could do it. But she certainly was very good at putting the other players on the run.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different then, okay?
Yeah.
Well, we are talking with Roscoe Tanner, and he is a tennis great, number 4 in the world, way back when, and it's just an honor to have him on my show. And we'll be back with Roscoe right after this. Each year, 5,000 people, including children, choke to death. LifeVac can stop these senseless tragedies. It's so easy to use also. Simply place the mask over the face, push and pull. You'll never regret having a LifeVac in your home or office. Please visit lifevac.net today to protect you and your loved ones. Or you can call them at 877-LIFEVAC. That's 877-LifeVac.
We ask people what they would do when they get back to their loved ones.
I will hug my mom.
My brother better be ready for that bear hug.
Getting vaccinated is our chance to get back to what we miss so much safely. And for people at higher risk of complications due to diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart conditions, the COVID-19 vaccine is an important choice. Getting back to life. Set your heart on it. It's up to you. For more information, go to heart.org/vaccine. A message from the American Heart Association.
Welcome back to Live on Tape with Pete Shabuko on WWDB AM 860 Talk Radio, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group radio station. And we are talking to Roscoe Tanner, the Rocket. Okay, tennis player, the ultimate tennis player at 153 miles per hour. Hell, I don't even think I could ride a rocket that fast at this point. That's probably why you got the name. Roscoe, 16 titles, okay? In singles, I believe, and 13 career titles in doubles. Now, I'm going to ask a stupid question, but what did you like best, singles or doubles?
Singles.
And why?
Well, I just, I enjoyed it. I did well in it, but I liked attacking. Although it was great after I played my singles matches during the day. The second match that I'm playing today generally would be doubles, and just to get out there with my partner and have some fun. Generally in singles, in the tournament, 80% of the prize money was in singles, 20% was in doubles, and you divided it by 2. So a whole lot more importance was put on singles.
Were the actual, I guess, prize money, was it different back then? So now it's over $2.5 million for the winner. Was it like that, or was it close to that back then?
Yeah, we thought the prize money was big. I don't remember what it was, but we thought it was big. And as far as we were concerned, being on the WCT tour was huge prize money. Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas always put out big prize money. So it was big. We were excited. It wasn't the level of what they get now. I was looking at the prize money even just for the Canadian Open, and it's millions. And so it's surprising the amount of money that's out there for the players, but they deserve it. They're unbelievable players. It's very hard to get. We didn't have the same prize money, but we could get to it a whole lot easier than these guys can. The things you got to go through to make it to the tour now is you got to beat good players.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so you won the Australian Open, 1977. You're sitting there in the court, on the top of the court. Everybody's cheering and yelling and screaming. And what was that feeling like? And it was televised. So obviously, what was it like to go to one of the Grand Slam tournaments and sit there and win, and have everybody just all the accolades and all the cheering for you? I mean, it's got to be an experience that can never be duplicated.
Well, and one of the things, too, I mean, that was still relatively early in my career. And so all of a sudden it was like, wow. I came out with a lot of confidence. Played at Stanford. We were a good team, and played with Arthur as my doubles partner. So by the time I turned pro, I was ranked in the top 20. So I was geared towards, and all through high school, everything, we were geared towards winning. So when I entered the tournament, I was looking to try to win it every time. Didn't mean I did, but it just meant that's what was in my mindset. And so winning the Australian was huge. I did not realize at the time how big winning one of those 4 major titles is.
Yeah, no, I've heard that before from other tennis players as well. They were like, I wish I could have, just savored the moment a little bit longer because, let's face it, very few people win a Grand Slam. And when they do,
right.
usually a lot of them don't come back and win another. They that's it. They won the one, and they might get close, but they don't win another. And if they do, well, that's good. But I mean, even John McEnroe, I think what did he win, 7 or 8? So I mean, that's total titles, and he was one of the greatest players. And Jimmy Connors probably had maybe a little less than that. So I mean, we're not talking Serena Williams 23 or Nadal 23 or Novak 23. I mean, back then it was like if you got there, man, it was pretty impressive. And when you're right about Wimbledon, I think Wimbledon is got everybody's wearing white. It basically has a format. It's a program that's never changed. You don't hear the music in between. It's very dignified, and it just seems to be on a much higher level than any of the others. Although you got to admit, U.S. Open, it's fun to go to because people are screaming and yelling, and everybody, they don't know etiquette. They don't know tennis etiquette, and it's got to be a lot of fun, really.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, they're all fun in their own way. I particularly, my daughter loved Wimbledon because there was no, it's straight tennis.
Yes.
The U.S. Open is a show.
Really? Now, have you taken your daughter to the Roland Garros or the French Open yet?
No, I have not. I haven't been to the French Open in a lot of years. One of the reasons that we went to Wimbledon and also the U.S. Open is because I'm in the last 8 club, so I get free tickets.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Good for you. So in other words, if you get free tickets and I just happen to be visiting you and maybe your daughter doesn't want to go with you, you'll take me along, right? There you go.
Well, the only thing is they give us credentials. It's like a picture, so it's a credential that I get in, and so does Lacey, my daughter.
Oh, it sounds good. Well, I could pretend I'm your daughter. No,
you could say you're feeling female.
I mean, I didn't know you had a 64-year-old daughter. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's a hard sell, but we could make it work.
We can maybe work it out. Maybe you never. Okay. And when was the last time you were at the Australian Open? I know it's a 23-hour flight. It's long. But when was the last time you were there?
I haven't been there in what seems like forever. I don't know. I went maybe a couple of years after I won it, but I'm not sure that I've been there since then.
Okay. A good answer.
I haven't been to Australia in a long, long time. I want to go back. That's the one I do want to go back to.
Definitely. Okay, so we got about a minute. In 1 minute, tell new people that want to play tennis, that want to be as good as you, what they need to do in order to get to that next level, in order to be a pro, in order to get to the Grand Slams. What do they got to do?
Well, you got to get a good coach, number one, because you can't do it on your own. And you've got to just dedicate yourself to it and commit to it completely. Because if you don't, the other people are. And so you've got to develop weapons. The game today is not one on defense; it's offense. And so there can be serves, that can be big forehand, big ground strokes, serve and volley. There's all different ways to have offense, but you've got to have weapons to beat the other player. The players are too good; they don't beat themselves anymore.
And I believe they spend more time training now than they might have done during your time period. I spoke to one person and they were like, "Oh yeah, we never come off the court. We're just doing this 24/7. We're doing something having to do with the game."
Yeah, I wouldn't do that though, because I think when you do that, you start to just practice bad habits, and your brain just can't handle that much. What I would say, Jimmy Connors had a good thing. He practiced for an hour and a half, hour and 45, but man, was it intense. And then when he got a little bit sloppy, get off the court, go away, do something else, and come back later and do it again. But anytime you're on the court, it's all business.
Wow. That's an interesting statement. I never would have thought of that. Listen, Roscoe, thank you so much for being on the show. We really do appreciate it. You are an amazing guy, amazing player. And like I said, when I'm down in Orlando, I'm going to find you, although you probably... Okay, but I'm not going outside in 110-degree weather. I'm going to be going indoors when I play games with you, when I play tennis.
That's perfect.
Because I don't think I could make it outside in that. So
outside is tough right now, that's for sure.
Thank you so much. You have a great day. And that wraps it up for Live on Tape with Pete Tribuco. We'll talk to you again next week.